Sneetches and other stories. I think if you know very much about me, you know that I love the Sneetches. I always have loved this story because it just teaches such a great lesson. Almost all of Dr. Seuss's books do teach a great lesson too, so let's read it. The Sneetches. Now, the star-belly Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain-belly Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big, they were really so small. You'd think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. But because they had stars, all the star-belly Sneetches would brag, "We're the best kind of Sneetch on the beaches." With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they'd snort. "We'll have nothing to do with the plain-belly sort." And whatever they met when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the star-belly children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? Not at all. You only could play if your belly had stars, and the plain-belly children had none upon theirs. When the star-belly Sneetches had frankfurter roasts, or picnics, or parties, or marshmallow toasts, they never invited the plain-belly Sneetches. They left them out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. Then one day, it seemed, while the plain-belly Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. "My name," he announced in a voice clear and keen, "my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles. I've heard you're unhappy. I can fix that. I am the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you. I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work my work with great speed, and my work is 100% guaranteed." Then quickly Sylvester McMonkey McMean put together a very particular machine, and he said, "You want stars on the like the starbelly Sneetches, my friends? You can have them for $3 eaches. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard." So they clambered inside, then the big machine roared, and it clunked, and it bonked, and it jerked, and it burked, and it bopped, and it about, but the thing really worked. When the plain belly Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon theirs. Then they yelled at the ones who had stars at the start, "We're exactly like you. You can't tell us apart. We're all just the same now, you snooty old smarties. And now we can go to your frankfurter parties." "Good grief," groaned the ones who had stars at the first. "We're still the best Sneetches, and they're still the worst. But now, how in the world do we know?" They all frowned. "If which kind is what, and what, or the other way around?" Then up came McBean with a very sly wink, and he said, "Things are not quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who. That is perfectly true. But come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best Sneetches on the beaches, and all that it will cost you is $10 eaches." "Belly stars are no longer in style," said McBean. "What you need is a trip through my star-off machine. This wondrous contraption will take off your stars so you won't look like the Sneetches who have them on theirs." And that handy machine worked very precisely, removing all their stars from their tummies quite nicely. Then with their snoots in the air, they prated about, and they only opened their beaks and they let out the shout, "We know who is who. Now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of Sneetches are Sneetches without." Then, of course, those with stars all got frightfully mad. To be wearing a star now was frightfully bad. Then, of course, old Sylvester McMonkey McBean invited them into his star-off machine. Then, of course, from then on, as you probably guessed, things really got into a horrible mess. All the rest of the day on those wild, screaming beaches, the fix-it-up chappie kept fixing up Sneetches. Off again, on again, in again, out again. Through the machine they ran round and about again, changing their stars every minute or two. They kept paying money, they kept running through until neither the plane nor the Starbellies knew whether this one was that one or that one was this one or which one was what one or what one was who. Then, when every last cent of their money was spent, the fix-it-up chappie packed up and he went. And he laughed as he drove his car up the beach. They never will learn. No, you can't teach a Sneetch. But McBean was quite wrong, I am happy to say, that the Sneetches got really quite smart on that day. That day they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day all the Sneetches forgot about stars and whether they had one or not upon theirs. The Zacks. One day, making tracks in the prairie of Prax, came a north-going Zax and a south-going Zax. And it happened that both of them came to a place where they bumped. There they stood, foot to foot, face to face. Look here now, the north-going Zax said. I'd say you are blocking my path. You are right in my way. I am the north-going Zax, and I always go north. Get out of my way now and let me go forth. Who's in whose way? Snapped the south-going Zax. I always go south, making south-going tracks. So you're in my way, and I ask you to move, and let me go south in my south-going groove. Then the north-going Zax puffed his chest up with pride. I never, he said, take a step to one side, and I'll prove to you that I won't change my ways if I have to keep standing here 59 days. And I'll prove to you, yelled the south-going Zax, that I can stand here in the prairie of Prax for 59 years, for I live by a rule that I learned as a boy back in south-going school. Never budge, that's my rule. Never budge in the least, not an inch to the west, not an inch to the east. I'll stay here, not budging. I can and I will, if it makes you and me and the whole world stand still. Well, of course, the world didn't stand still. The world grew. In a couple of years, a new highway came through, and they built it right over those two stubborn Zacks and left them there standing unbudged in their tracks. Too many Daves. Did I ever tell you that Mrs. McCabe had 23 sons and she named them all Dave? Well, she did, and that wasn't a smart thing to do. You see, when she wants one and calls out, yoo-hoo, come into the house, Dave, she doesn't get one. All 23 Daves of hers come on the run. This makes things quite difficult at McCabe's, as you can imagine with so many Daves. And often she wishes that when they were born, she had named one of them Bodkins von Horn, and one of them Hoofus, and one of them Simon, and one of them Hot Shots, and Sunny Jim, and one of them Shadwick, and one of them Blinky, and one of them Stuffy, and one of them Stinky. Another one Put Put, another one Moonface, another one Marvin O'Gravel Balloonface, and one of them Ziggy, and one of them Soggy Muff. Oh, one Buffalo Bill, and one Buffalo Buff, and one of them Sneepy, and one Weepy Weed, and one Paris Garters, and one Harris Tweed, and one Sir Michael Carmichael Zut, and one of them Oliver Bloliver Butt, and one of them Zandabar Buck McFeet. But she didn't do it. And now it's too late. What was I scared of? Well, I was walking in the night and I saw nothing scary, for I have never been afraid of anything. Not very. Then I was deep within the woods when suddenly I spied them. I saw a pair of pale green pants with nobody inside them. I wasn't scared, but yet I stopped. What could those pants be for? What could a pair of pants at night be standing in the air for? And then they moved. Those empty pants, they kind of started jumping, and then my heart, I must admit, I kind of started thumping. So I got out. I got out fast as I could go, sir. I wasn't scared, but pants like that, I did not care for. No, sir. After that, a week went by. Then one dark night in Greenwich, I had to do an errand there and fetch some Greenwich spinach. Well, I had to fetch the spinach. I was starting back through town when those pants raced. When those pants raced round the corner, they almost knocked me down. I lost my Greenwich spinach, but I didn't even care. I ran for home. Believe me, I had really had a scare. Now, bicycles were never made for pale green pants to ride 'em, especially spooky pale green pants with nobody inside 'em. And the next night, I was fishing for double trout on Root River. When those pants came rowing toward me, well, I started to shiver. And by now I was so frightened that I tell you, but I hate to. I screamed and I rode away and lost my hook and line and bait too. I ran and found a brickle bush. I hid myself away. I got brickles in my breeches, but I stayed there anyway. I stayed all night the next night too, but be there still no doubt. But I had to do an errand, so the next night I went out. I had to do an errand. I had to pick a peck of snide in the dark, gloomy snide field that was almost 9 miles wide. I said, I do not fear those pants with nobody inside them. I said, and I said, and said those words. I said them, but I lied them. Then I reached inside a snide bush, and the next thing that I knew, I felt my hand touch something, and I'll bet you know who. And there I was, caught in the snide, in that dreadful place. Those spooky empty pants and I were standing face to face. I yelled for help. I screamed. I shrieked. I howled. I yowled. I cried. Oh, save me from these pale green pants with nobody inside. But then a strange thing happened. Why, those pants began to cry. Those pants began to tremble. They were just as scared as I. I never heard such whimpering, and I began to see that I was just as strange to them as they were strange to me. I put my arm around their waist. I sat right down beside them. I calmed them down, poor empty pants with nobody inside them. And now we meet quite often, those empty pants and I, and we never shake or tremble. We both smile and we say hi. The end.